There's a ghost haunting the internet. He's got a magnificent mustache and a very, very big hammer. That ghost is Friedrich Nietzsche, and his ideas are popping up in the strangest places. You'll see his words slapped on fitness motivation videos, in crypto forums, and most loudly in the rants of guys like AndrewTate. Now, on the surface, you can almost see why. Tate preaches a gospel of power, of crushing weakness, of becoming a dominant man. It sounds a lot like a modern-day version of Nietzsche. Tate's followers will tell you he's the living embodiment of the Übermensch, the higher man that Nietzsche prophesied. But the truth is that comparison isn't just wrong, it's a complete inversion of everything Nietzsche stood for. The fact is, Nietzsche, the philosopher of the strong, would look at AndrewTate and see not a master, but the ultimate slave. He wouldn't see a creator of new values, but a symptom of the same cultural decay he was warning us about over 100 years ago. To get why Nietzsche would have despised AndrewTate, you first have to understand what he actually meant by power, strength, and manliness. And the answer is way more radical and honestly a lot more terrifying than just owning a fleet of supercars. All right, so before we put AndrewTate on trial, we need to understand the philosophy he's being judged against. And that means we have to talk about Nietzsche. It's easy to turn him into a caricature, the God is dead guy, the nihilist, the angry man with a wild mustache. But his philosophy wasn't about smashing things for the fun of it. He used his famous philosophical hammer, more like a tuning fork, to tap on the hollow idols of his time and show everyone how empty they were. He wanted to clear out the rubble of old, dead values to make room for something new to grow. To explain this, he gave us three key ideas: the will to power, master versus slave morality, and the Übermensch. Now let's start with the one everyone gets wrong, the will to power. When you hear that phrase, you probably picture a dictator, a ruthless CEO, or, well, AndrewTate flexing in front of a jet. But that's the most basic, shallow reading of the idea. For Nietzsche, the will to power is the fundamental drive in everything. It's not just about dominating other people. A plant twisting itself to get more sun is expressing its will to power. An artist, alone in their studio, battling a canvas for days to bring their vision to life, is driven by a massive will to power. The highest expression of this will isn't controlling others, but mastering yourself. It's about self-overcoming. It's the drive to grow, to become more than you are, to turn your inner chaos into a creative force. Bossing other people around is actually one of the lowest forms of this will. That's the easy part. What's hard is conquering your own weaknesses, your own laziness, your own desire for an easy life. That is the real battlefield of power. This leads us to his second big idea, master versus slave morality. Nietzsche said that throughout history, you can see two basic kinds of morality. First, you've got master morality. This is the code of the noble, the strong, the confident. The master looks at himself, at his own strength, his ambition, his drive, and says, "This is good." His values flow from a place of self-love. For him, bad is just an afterthought. It's whatever is weak, pathetic, or pitiful, whatever isn't like him. His morality is created, not calculated. Then, there's slave morality. This, Nietzsche argues, is born from the weak, the oppressed, and the resentful. And it doesn't start with good. It starts with evil. The slave looks at the master, the person with power over him, and his entire moral system is born from bitterness. He says, that man is powerful, he is rich, he is happy, he must be evil. And from that one resentful thought, everything else follows. If the master is evil, then the opposite of the master must be good. So, weakness is reframed as humility. Submission becomes obedience. Not being able to get revenge is twisted into forgiveness. Slave morality isn't its own value system. It's a reaction. It has to have an enemy to exist. It defines itself by what it hates. Now hold on to that idea because it's the key that unlocks this whole thing. Finally, we get to the Übermensch, or the Overman. This isn't a superhero. The Übermensch is a goal for humanity. In a world where God is dead, where the old religious and moral safety nets are gone, humanity is in danger. We could either sink into a state of comfortable, thoughtless mediocrity, what Nietzsche called the last man, or we could strive to overcome ourselves and become something more. The Übermensch is the one who does this. He has totally mastered himself. He creates his own values from the ground up, and he can look at all of life with all its pain and chaos and say yes to it, a concept called amor fati, the love of one's fate. The Übermensch doesn't need a rule book because he writes his own. He's an artist, and his masterpiece is his own life. So let's recap. True power is self-mastery, not dominating others. There are two moralities, one born from self-love and one born from resentment. And the ultimate goal isn't to be a tough guy, but to become the creator of your own meaning. Now, with that toolkit, let's turn the tuning fork on Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate sells himself as a modern-day master. He projects this image of total freedom, of a guy who escaped the matrix and lives by his own rules. He's got the money, the cars, the women, the jet. He is, by his own telling, the definition of power. But when we use Nietzsche's ideas as a lens, the whole performance falls apart, revealing something completely different. Let's talk about power. Tate's entire brand of power is external. It's measured in dollars, horsepower, the number of women he's with, and the number of clicks he gets. It's a power that's all about display. It needs an audience. It has to be seen. A Bugatti sitting in a locked garage is worthless in this mindset. Its value only comes from the envy it creates in other people. This is the exact opposite of Nietzsche's will to power. Nietzsche would say that this desperate need for outside approval isn't a sign of strength, but of deep weakness. It shows a person who is totally dependent on the opinions of the very herd he claims to be better than. If your sense of power depends on other people thinking you're powerful, then you aren't their master. You are their slave, chained to their judgment. The true Nietzschean master doesn't care. His power is internal, forged in the lonely struggle of self-overcoming. He doesn't need to post his wins because he's not playing for an audience. Tate's power is a show for the herd. Nietzsche's power is a silent, internal act of creation. Next, let's look at his idea of masculinity. Tate sells a very specific, very rigid version of it. It's a checklist. An alpha male in his world acts a certain way, talks a certain way, treats women a certain way, and chases money above all else. It's a formula, a blueprint for lost young men. Follow these steps, buy this course, adopt this mindset, and you too can be a top G. Nietzsche would have found this hilarious and pathetic. The Übermensch is the ultimate enemy of all formulas. The whole point of overcoming yourself is to go beyond labels, not to eagerly grab a new one. Tate offers his followers a new uniform to wear. This isn't creating new values, it's just a different kind of conformity, painted in the aggressive colors of hypermasculinity. A rigid, dogmatic masculinity like Tate's is just another cage for the human spirit. The Übermensch creates his own identity. He doesn't download it from a hustler's university. And this brings us to the most damning point, master versus slave morality. Just listen to how Andrew Tate talks. His entire worldview is built on an enemy, the matrix, the haters, the slaves in their 9-to-5s, the feminists, the potatoes. His identity as a winner is defined completely by his opposition to these so-called losers. This is textbook Nietzsche's slave morality. It's a philosophy born of pure resentment. It doesn't start with a self-affirming, I am good, but with a bitter finger-pointing, they are evil. The matrix is evil, so I, who fight it, am good. The weak are pathetic, so I, who am strong, am good. His whole moral system is a reaction. It can't stand on its own. It needs an enemy to feel righteous. A true Nietzschean master doesn't waste time on haters. He's too busy creating his own life. His sense of worth comes from being better than he was yesterday, not from being better than someone else. Tate's constant need to put others down isn't the mark of a confident master. It's the cry of a slave who is still defined by the thing he hates. He hasn't escaped the herd, he's just started his own angrier herd, united by a shared bitterness. Now, a Tate defender might jump in here and say, hang on, Tate preaches discipline, hard work, fitness, and getting your money right. He tells young men to stop being lazy and improve themselves. Surely Nietzsche, the philosopher of self-overcoming, would applaud that. And the answer is a very qualified yes. Nietzsche absolutely valued discipline and ambition. He despised mediocrity and comfort. But here's the crucial difference, and it changes everything. For Nietzsche, discipline is a tool. For Tate, discipline is the product. Nietzsche thought you should build discipline for a higher purpose, to gain the strength and freedom to create new values. It's the training an artist goes through so they can finally paint their masterpiece. The goal is the art, the creation, the new way of seeing the world. For Tate, the discipline seems to lead to a much smaller goal, buying the symbols of success that the existing herd already thinks are valuable. What's the end game for all this hustling? A Bugatti, a Rolex, a mansion. These aren't new values. These are the most cliché materialistic values of the very society, the very matrix he claims to be fighting. He isn't creating a new set of values. He's just trying to get the high score in a game that already exists. Nietzsche's Übermensch would probably look at a Bugatti and just laugh, not because it isn't a cool car, but because pinning your life's meaning on it is a sign of spiritual poverty. The Übermensch creates meaning. He doesn't buy it. Tate's philosophy teaches men how to become incredibly disciplined cogs in a machine of materialism. The goal isn't to escape the rat race. It's just to become the biggest, fastest rat. If you appreciate this kind of breakdown and want to see more analyses that go deeper than the surface level takes, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what's next. This conversation is an important one, and let me know in the comments, is there another public figure whose ideas you think deserve a philosophical takedown? I read all the suggestions. So if Andrew Tate isn't the Übermensch, what is he? He's not the master, not the creator, not the future. In a weird and tragic twist, Andrew Tate is a perfect example of what Nietzsche feared most, the last man. The last man was Nietzsche's vision of where humanity was headed if we weren't careful. He's a creature who only wants comfort and security. He takes no real risks, has no great passions, and feels no great love or contempt. His world is small, safe, and completely meaningless. The last man looks at his easy life and blinks, thinking he's found happiness. But wait, you say, Tate is all about risk and ambition. Is he? Or does he just offer a different kind of comfort? He offers the comfort of a simple, black and white worldview in a confusing world. He offers the comfort of a pre-packaged identity for young men who feel lost. He offers the comfort of believing that life's meaning can be found in the simple, measurable chase for money and status. It's a shiny cage, but it's still a cage. It protects you from the terrifying freedom of real Nietzschean thought. The freedom that comes when you realize there are no rules from on high, no cosmic safety net, and that you and you alone have to forge your own purpose out of the chaos. This is the real challenge Nietzsche gives us. It's not about getting rich or owning your enemies. It's about staring into the abyss of a meaningless universe and finding the strength to create your own meaning anyway. It's a path that is incredibly lonely and incredibly difficult. And this matters. It matters because Andrew Tate's popularity shows a deep hunger in our world, especially among young men. A hunger for purpose, for strength, for a guide. Nietzsche saw this hunger coming over a century ago. He saw the void that the death of God would leave behind. Tate's ideology is popular because it fills that void with a simple answer. It offers a fast food version of power, a pre-made purpose. It tells men that their anxiety can be solved by buying a faster car. But Nietzsche would say this is poison dressed up as medicine. It's a distraction from the real work. The real work is not about becoming a top G. It's about becoming yourself. It's about the brutal, lifelong process of self-overcoming, of intellectual courage, and of creative fire. Nietzsche would hate Andrew Tate not because he's strong, but because his strength is a cheap copy. He'd see him not as a revolutionary, but as the ultimate peddler of slave morality for our time, a man who promises to free his followers from the herd, only to lead them into a different, angrier, but equally mindless pen. The real rebellion isn't against the matrix, it's against the easy answers that people like Andrew Tate sell.